also known as the cowboy's wife. I'm no expert on anything, and I don't claim to be, but I have been alive for 56 years, so I have some funny stories. Come saddle up with me and take a ride, and maybe I can make you laugh, or smile, or cry, or give you something to just think about that day. Let's do this. Hey everyone, Trish Charleston here, also known as the Cowboy's Wife, and today I'm with my friend Kim Stuart. Kim is a writer and a coach. She was my coach. That's how we know each other. I don't know if she builds this bond with all of her students, but I feel like she's one of my closest friends. So I know that's like super creepy because I have a lot of really good friends, and we've literally been in the same room maybe 4 times together.
It's not creepy. It's a compliment.
No,
it's a delight to be here. Thank you for asking me, Trish, creepy friend.
You are welcome. So if you have not read any of Kim's books, the most recent one is so good. It's Star for Jesus and Other Jobs I Quit. Do you want to tell them about that a little bit?
Sure. First of all, be careful what you send to your editor, because one time I sent her a photo of myself. She said, I just, want to get to know who you are during some of these stories in this book. And so I in a lapse of judgment, I sent her a photo of myself at my 8th grade graduation with, Yep, that's on the cover, Trish.
And there it is. You can't see it. How am I doing that wrong?
There we
go.
Well, I don't know if people need to see it. So first I would say, despite all evidence to the contrary, this book is not about me escaping an extremist cult. I'm just wearing a really unfortunate dress, as we did in the 80s. Okay?
Oh, yes, we did. Yes.
Okay. I'm just pointing that out.
We did.
And so the book really came out of, I have actually written a bunch of novels over the last many years, and this is my first nonfiction book. So it's the first one with all actual real people and not people I just make up to have revenge on real people.
So how many other books did you write? How many have you written?
I think I have 8 novels. So 8 novels. So this is number 9.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was, in some ways, this book has been writing its way into my life for about 20 years. The subtitle is Rediscovering the Grace That Sets Us Free. And I just took a really long time to decide to agree with God about grace. I felt like it was a great idea, but I needed to help him. I don't know if anyone else has ever felt like that, but so the book itself is just a bunch of personal stories, but the thread I pull through the whole thing is just this exquisite, unbelievable, relentless gift that is the grace of God, that we don't earn it, we don't deserve it, but it's completely ours, and we hold fast to it if we're being good to ourselves. So it was a really fun book to write in some ways, because all these people are real, all these stories are real, they're part of me. And also that made for some tricky things too, because in fiction, when you don't like somebody by like the 4th chapter, you can just kill them off. But not so with memoir-like stories. These people are all still here, including me. So, but no, I'm
so
I'm
good.
grateful for the chance to write it.
I now know what it's like to know someone who wrote a book, because rarely do you, as a reader, and I'm an avid reader, do I know these people. Now, I mean, some people that I know have written books. They're not about themselves, but everybody that's read my books always tells me they can hear my voice, and it makes it so much more fun when you know the person, except today. So my new book my book launch is coming out today, and you know, I've talked about how people can really jack with you when you're asking their opinion. And this is one of the things. I think I listened to you. I don't know if it was you and Bob on a podcast or somebody else's, and they said, just have your friend read your book, and you're just like, oh, full sweat, you just, because man, when they come back with what they come back with, sometimes it's not all butterflies and rainbows, So I have this little old neighbor, and hopefully she doesn't listen to my podcast. I don't think she does, because I'm going to really throw her out there today.
Okay. Wow.
Begging me to read my new book because she's read my other 3. And
I remember you talking about it.
Yes. And she just loved them so much. Well, so she started this new, I just gave her a manuscript because, I mean, she's in her 90s. She kept,
gotta move
like
fast.
Afraid she's going to.
Yeah.
Yeah. She might be with Jesus before she reads about Jesus. So she wanted to read it quickly. And so I took just a giant, stack of paper over there and for her to read.
This
And
is amazing.
she was so excited about it at first. And she's like, "Oh, I'm just loving it." It's just, and it makes you feel so good.
Right.
Just a tiny little bit of confirmation. Nobody in my family's even read my manuscript, just my neighbor. And so today I called her because she had called me and I missed a call and I was calling her back and she said, I go, "Well, are you still reading?" And she goes, "Well," and I'm
Oh
like,
boy.
"Oh boy." She goes, I'm about halfway through it. She goes, "But it's about Emma and I just don't know Emma."
Oh,
She goes, "Like I know you and Kevin." And she said, "Those your other books were about you and Kevin." And so basically it's like this book sucks.
okay. First of all, have I taught you nothing? You have to be careful
No,
who
I
gets
know.
this
It's like,
thing.
okay, she's not. So I'm like, okay, away from me, Satan, because I'm like, she's not my demographic.
Wow, we've gone from beloved elderly neighbor to Satan in
No,
like 1 minute.
no, but that playing in my head, she wasn't giving
Yeah,
me
yeah.
up.
No, no.
She wasn't being mean, but she was just being blatantly honest.
Right.
And she loved the warm, fuzzy feeling she got, just like when I read your book. It's so different when you know somebody than it is
Right.
just reading some stranger's book. I mean, it's still wonderful. Don't get me wrong; it's still completely wonderful. But I'm just saying, I fully got it when people were telling me, "I can hear your voice,"
Right.
and that's super cool.
Right. For
But
better,
anyway,
for worse.
yes,
Maybe some people want to turn off my voice, but yes, you can definitely hear me in this for
she's
sure.
she's not in my demographic. I get it. She doesn't rodeo. This is not. She did ask me a really funny question though. She goes, and later on do you write anything about Emma's love life? And I'm like, oh wow,
Wow. So we know why she's picking that up.
yeah. She wants the
That's
nitty gritty. I'm like,
hilarious.
well, I mean,
No,
yes,
but here's
because
Emma's phone number, and I'm sure she'd
just
love to hear from
give
you.
her a call. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was funny. But anyway, I thought, wow, just that silly little, you know, conversation had me doubting my new work. And I was just
Mm,
like, oh my gosh, what is wrong with me? This is so stupid. This is not, of course she doesn't, is not enjoying this book.
right.
Why would she? I mean, it's not about, I mean,
Well, it's very personal. I mean, your book is
yeah,
very personal,
yeah,
but writing itself, the discipline of writing is extremely personal. So,
yeah,
in other areas of our lives, we're really able to kind of build some fences and make neat little spots where we know, okay, well, this is for this person, but it's not necessarily who I am, right? If I'm
right.
volunteering somewhere or working in another capacity, or even as my work as a coach, it's not mine. So I can have a healthy distance. But boy, you put a barcode in all of my deepest, darkest and
Yeah.
ask people to enter in, it is incredibly personal. So it's normal that you would feel a
And
little
it,
bit
and it gets
out of kilter.
almost invasive a little bit, but you're the one
Mhm.
that wrote it.
You
And
did
then,
it.
when people
Yeah.
ask you about it, you're like offended. You're going,
Yeah.
wait, what? How do you know
How
about
do you
that?
know that?
And you're like, oh yeah, I
Oh,
wrote
I
about
did.
that this morning on my blog, like every minute of every
Oh,
day. So
so funny.
how, so you've written 9 books. Holy moly. That's just a lot.
Well,
And you
you
balance all these things. I mean, your kids, your husband, your travel, because you travel a bunch, don't you? Or not
I
so
do.
much? Yeah,
Yeah, I
you're
do
gone.
travel quite a bit. Yeah.
So you just got
Oh,
back from
didn't always.
when you were writing. How long have you been working with Bob?
Let's see. I think we started, it's been about 6 years that we've
Oh,
been
wow.
working together.
Okay,
So,
so for those of you that don't know who I'm talking about, Kim helps Bob Goff, and Bob is who I hired and gosh, got lucky and got Kim with the package deal and to help coach me and get me better. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is that people need people, and especially when you're
mm,
trying to do something as hard. And if you're surrounded by people like I am that do not have a clue about your passion or what it is that you're trying to learn to do, you've got to get out of the boat, so to speak. Peter did not walk
right.
on water until he got out of the boat. And it's very uncomfortable to do that.
Yeah.
But when you do, man, that's when the good stuff really happens. And I think that when like you and I've had this long conversation. I mean, heck, our last coaching call was nothing but just us yapping about the Oaks. And so I learned nothing about coaching, but just more about you and me. And so, um, but just what a cool experience it is for people. And you can't imagine. I was so freaked out when I left because I was by myself and, I mean, I've traveled by myself before, but I'm older, it's different. And I have all this pressure at home because I have 40,000 animals and things to do and kids and paperwork and grandkids and all the things. But I mean, and it was only 3 days and I felt like I was there for a month. I've never been so tired in my whole life. We packed in so much stuff in 3 days that it was just incredible. But the coolest part about it was I went in so cautious and terrified and came out like with a completely different outlook. And I'm sure this happens every single time you're there, or does it not? I'm sure
It
it
does.
does every
It
single
does.
time. And how many times have you done it?
We started right away June. I think it was January 2021, and we've done 4 or 5 every year since then. So quite a few
Wow.
times.
Yeah, that's a
And
lot.
you're right. Something happens. I mean, for sure. If let's just be honest. You put the investment in, the time, the resources, the energy to get somewhere. Already, you've decided, okay, this is important to me. And
Right.
the Oaks itself is just a beautiful place with just the best team that works there. And like, I
Yes.
mean, all the pieces conspire to a really great time if you're open to it. But I would say the Oaks isn't the only spot you can get that.
Oh, no.
Um, and but I feel like we don't do that. I don't do that for myself. I've got plenty of plates I'm spinning. I'm defrosting chicken thighs right now, Trish. Okay. Because if I don't, nobody's eating dinner.
That's
Okay. The
right. That's
dog
right.
is alive right now and doesn't have kidney disease because of me.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Yep.
So we all have all of these things that we do on the daily, and it takes a certain amount of chutzpah and persistence to say to yourself over and over again, no, I really am going to carve out this time to do something nutty, right? And the nutty thing is to believe that the way that God wired me, in my case, for storytelling and for writing and, the other things that you and I do, podcasting, reaching out with words to people on the other side of the screen or your earbuds or what have you, the page. If I believe that that is one of the ways that God has wired me, the way he created me, then I'm going to have to get scrappy about it because
Mhm.
most things that matter deeply don't just happen. They just don't. Our good relationships, our rich conversations, the things that matter take some time. And I have found it took a long time for me to just say out loud, no, this really matters to me. This is an important thing to me. And I'm going to have to be a little bit feisty in getting to it. So the Oaks for you, my guess is that time allowed you to just say that out loud in a room full of other people who had the same crazy dream. And that's hard to find sometimes. It's hard to find people who will nod and say, oh, yeah, I totally get why you would want to, you know,
Right.
punish
And
yourself for the next 6 months and write words on a screen. Sounds fun. And they really believe it.
yeah. No, yeah, they really do. And well, and as you know, you and I have talked about it. I didn't exactly have a great sounding board. I mean, uh, it's not that my husband was unsupportive. Eh, I mean, maybe.
Does he listen to this podcast? How many people are studiously not listening to your
My
podcast?
entire family. They do not
They'd
listen.
find out so much if they just
They
plug
would.
this thing in.
They really would. We could connect on such a deeper level. No, but it just doesn't interest him. So it just writing didn't interest him. So and he could not for the life of him figure out why it interests me so much. Much like setting, cows don't interest me, but he loves them, with his whole
Right.
heart. And so
Right.
I get it, but we've made this compromise, and I think he's finally quit rolling his eyes when I introduce myself as a writer, which is a plus. That's a big good thing because I think he's figured out I can actually do it. It'd be nice if I'd have a paycheck from time to time, but it is what it is. I mean, it just is what it is. But I think that the cool part about the thing and just like getting out of the boat, perfect example of like from the minute I landed in California, I had all these cool divine appointments. I mean, like my driver, for crying out loud. I got to talk about Jesus with this man who was like from, I wrote it down. I think he's from Russia, or I told you about him because I even met this sweet gal that I wanted to ride back. She offered to drive me to the airport and spend some extra time with me because I just loved her. And that was another thing. I was very intimidated by her when I first met her, and in 3 days she was my favorite person there. It was so weird. It was so weird. And so on the way home, I was so bummed, but I knew I had to spend some more time with this guy because we had just laughed all the way there. And
awesome.
we get there, and it's Slaughterhouse Road is what the
it's not
things.
a great
No,
place.
and
Not a great name for going to the place where you're going to get what you need. Bob always
right.
says you turn left on Slaughterhouse Road, and then on your right is a vineyard. And so lots of people go to the Oaks to like get clean.
Yes,
Your
right.
former addicts. Left
Yeah.
on Slaughterhouse. Notice the vineyard. Don't stop. Keep going. I mean, it's questionable for the
No
entrance,
wine
but
for you. But seriously, he's like, "Are you sure?" He was genuinely concerned for me at this point. He's like, and I could tell the look on his face was
is this
genuine.
an okay place?
He goes, "Hey, I'm not. I don't know about this." He goes, "I've
This
never
is
been
safe.
out here. This is so far away from San Diego, and
funny.
I'm not comfortable." I go, "Let's just, I mean, just get down there, see if anybody shows up."
We were there. We were all waiting for
we were
you.
there. It reminded me of that Ferdinand, when their buddy gets hauled off to the chop house. I mean, it was pretty funny. I was like, maybe my bull friends will be there waiting for me to
My time has come.
break me free. Yep. But we do need people, and you can't, like Kevin's always on me about ordering everything online. He said, get out of the house and go meet people. You can't, and he's right. And so a perfect example, this year for Christmas, Emma had bought a bunch of Christmas lights. And I don't know if I already told you this story. I don't think I did, but she bought a bunch of Christmas lights and she didn't need all of them. And she's poor. She rodeos for a living. And so she decided she was going to take them back. And when she gets there was this family getting out of their car, going in. She goes, I don't even know what made me sick. She goes, but I just said, do you guys need lights? And they're like, yes. That was the only reason they were at Lowe's. And she goes, well, would these work? And the mom cried. Wow. And they got in there, took the lights, got in their car and went away. Emma said, I stood there just dumbfounded.
That's amazing.
I know, but
so
how cool
beautiful.
is that? But it's so true. That's exactly what happens if you get out of the boat. Yep. But if you won't, you're never going to have those divine appointments happen. Mm-hmm. And I love stuff like that. Stuff like that happens to me all the time. I called a friend of mine this morning about a podcast that she had sent me. We send each other sermons all the time. And in that 5 minutes, 4 different phone calls transpired and we were able to bless someone else just secretly. And it was just the coolest. It's like, what just happened? Awesome. This was not on my schedule for today. I mean, right. None of it. And it was just so cool. And I love when stuff like that happens. Mm-hmm. But the other thing about that is if you don't get out of the boat, sometimes you need someone to push you out of the boat. Just like little birds.
Is this where I come in?
Yes. You're the mama.
Push you out of the boat?
Mama bird that pushed me out of the nest. And Bob too. Oh my gosh. His whole books, all his books are about taking these crazy risks. And heck, I'm married to the king of it. The name of our company is Specialty Risk Insurance, for crying out loud. I mean, he's not afraid of anything, which just fully stresses me out, because he's just, let's do it. I'm like, let's stay in this trailer house forever.
This boat's really nice. I don't want to get out of this boat.
I'm happy here.
Let's have all my put an air conditioning on the back. No problem.
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't drive it, but it was still a mobile home. You could if you hooked the trailer up to it, I guess. But yeah, I mean, and I think that's why what coaches are for. I think it's so important when you are trying to do something and you're failing at it, or you just want to get better.
Mm-hmm.
You don't always get better by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
People need people, and I think that's huge. And sometimes you got to put your money where your mouth is, but sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can just step out there and like guess what I did this week? I am learning to play the guitar.
Oh, nice.
I can play G. That's it.
Good. Good.
It took me
That's a great
literally
start.
minutes to tune this thing. I mean, like it's supposed to be 10 minutes a day for 6 weeks, and I'm going to learn a worship song 10 minutes a day.
Okay.
Okay, so I got
How's
10
it
minutes.
going? Yeah.
Well, I can play G because it took me
Great.
30 minutes, took me all week just to
To
tune the
tune it.
guitar. And now I'm scared to death that I'm going to break a string, because if you break one of those, I have no way to fix that. That's when I'm going to have to step out of the boat,
Guitar Center. Yep. Mm-hmm.
yeah, phone a
Mm-hmm.
friend.
Yep.
I happen to know a guy that plays the guitar that doesn't live too far from me, so I'm hoping I'm just gonna call Clint, ask him to come over, fix my strings,
It'll work.
because it's
No, we
coming.
need each other for sure.
We do need each other. So, what can you share? One cool thing that happened at the Oaks this week, or is that like
Oh,
super secret sister club or
no, it's
something?
never secret, never secret. Yeah, I mean, we see that this very theme is my favorite part of the Oaks because most of a writer's life is very alone. Just necessarily, you're in your yoga pants, you open your laptop, bang out a few words, then go back to your normal life, or at least that's how I've done
Yeah,
it. I'm a fairly social person, and so to have a space where I can combine my love of language and also be around people who are picking up what we're all laying down is just so fantastic. And so this week, just like every other week that we've spent at the Oaks, it is just a beautiful thing to see the arc of, people come in at the beginning, their shoulders are a little high towards their ears, they're a little nervous, they're thinking, what in the world am I doing here? I should definitely have just gone to Vegas. And it's
I
just
thought the
so
same
fun.
thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's natural. I think
No,
it's
I
very
did.
natural in all spaces where we're thinking, I'm not sure I belong. And also, am I faking this? Right. I mean, we're typically by the time people come to writing books, I would say in general, but working with a coach or going to a retreat like at the Oaks, typically by that time, people have really crushed it in another area of their life, or they've built something else for a long time, right? They've been a parent or a spouse, they've had, they've raised children, they've built a business, they've been successful, and that's a wide,
Yeah,
that's a widely understood word, but a big gamut there. But in general, they've done something for a while and figured it out. So
yeah,
then to push into a new sphere like writing a book or learning the guitar or approaching a new relationship or wondering if we need to ask a few more questions of how we feel about God. All of those spaces feel really disorienting at the beginning because we already have muscles in the other spot.
yeah,
So what you're saying, Trish, is so 100% true that we need to borrow courage sometimes from other people. We don't have it on our own. And so to see that happen before my eyes at the Oaks is just a beautiful thing. I mean, half the time the conversations at dinner end up to be just some of my favorite spots because you hear, people I can see the arc over the week the days we spend together. And, if you share a good meal with somebody, that's a good, you've got an hour around a table where you're all just kind of starting to figure each other out and hear a little bit of each other's stories. That's oftentimes a more meaningful conversation than we have over years of driving carpool or
oh sure.
years of standing in line waiting for our kids or years of just saying, hey, how you doing in the lobby at church?
Well,
There's
look how
something
many
that
times
happens with that
Jesus
space.
had people around the table. I mean, that's where
Right.
all the good stuff happens.
Right.
Not in
So,
rows, in circles.
right. Right. There's
And
something about the food. There's something about, and the food, this is great, but
food
there's
is
something about
fabulous.
like, it's like we are all remembering, oh yeah, we all need this. We all need this fuel. So let's just get it together. So anyway, it's really fun to see those bonds form. And I remember you told me after you went that you'd been surprised at the people that you met and how close you felt with them and how how excited you were for their work and they were excited about yours and your life. And I think that why the reason that happens, definitely people self-select to, being even willing to do a retreat kind of intimates that you're open to kind of some new experiences. But I think the other just linchpin of that is that I don't take 3 days in my life to get to know people.
Oh, no.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
no.
I'd have to go to lunch with you a million times to really get what I got at the Oaks, right?
Right.
You get for
Oh,
a few
yeah.
days. It's just such a concentrated, beautiful chance to
And
have
it's
a
weird.
full conversation. Yeah.
It's weird though, because you're still working kind of.
Right.
I mean, there was a few assignments, but you weren't. Bob doesn't sleep, by the way. I shot him emails at like 2 or 3 in the morning because I wasn't sleeping
You don't either. Yeah.
And he immediately writes me. He's like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you? That's not true. He sleeps during yoga.
It's a great nap. Once every other month, he really gets a good nap.
But seriously, one of my favorite things that happened was exactly like that. We were sitting around the campfire and I was talking to Maggie. Remember sweet Maggie? And I was telling him about calling home, and I was getting a list, about the cows. I was just like, oh, I'm like, okay, nobody's gonna ask me, but I'm doing great.
Doing great.
And
made it past slaughterhouse. Yeah.
Yeah, Emma gets on the phone, and before she hangs up, she said, I just want to tell you, Mom, I'm so proud of you. And I still can't even say it without crying, because it meant so much to me in that moment, because I needed it. And so I was sharing that with Maggie, and she starts crying with me, and she goes,
she's so delightful.
Call my mom right now and tell her that I'm proud of her. And I mean, and she was so sincere. But it was
wonderful.
Yeah, it was super sweet. But anyway, it's just a really cool thing. And I think that no matter what it is that you're trying to do, whether it be barrel racing, which is what my new book's about, or writing a book, learning to play the guitar, just being with people, meeting new people, finding your lifelong partner, finding your spouse. You're not going to do that swiping left or swiping right. You've got to have that conversation in person, and quit shopping online, and maybe you'll meet them in the pastry aisle
or in the parking lot where you can give them some lights.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, well, do you have any other words of wisdom today?
Oh, well, that's a tall order. You really have to get me between like 9 and 1 if you want any wisdom.
Not me.
I would just encourage, you do such a great job of encouraging your listeners. I know they get that from you, Trish, but I would just kind of circle back to where we began, which is it costs us to do things that matter to us. And so if we can find people along the road who will come alongside, and it might not be the most obvious person.
Right.
It might not even be the person you share your life with.
Right.
But if you can be on the lookout and be wise about, who gets the microphone in your life, which soundtrack are you going to decide to listen to? Is it going to be the cranky neighbor? Sorry, Nelda. I just made up her name. Or is it going to be first and foremost the God who loves you and made you, right? He says you're beloved. He says you're made with a purpose. He says that you are free because he set you free. He has a lot to say about you and to you. So rooting first in that, and then looking for people who are in lock in step, who are saying those same things to you and giving them the microphone. I spent too much time in my life handing that microphone to anybody who had a pulse, whether it was in a dating relationship or in a professional spot. Like anybody who had something to say, I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. Instead of checking that against who I knew I was and who God says that I am. So I just encourage your listeners to be careful with the microphone. If you're hearing things that are true from a person, if you leave a conversation with that person feeling more rooted in your identity, more rooted in, as Paul would say, rooted and deeply rooted in the love of Christ, then that's a good person to hold the microphone. If you leave the conversation feeling less than,
Right.
what's the output of this person. And if that person's output makes you feel like an imposter or feel like you're never going to get here or you did something, you're perpetually doing things the wrong way, I think it's worth taking a step back. In our house for a long time, we would talk to our kids about the difference between heart friends and junior high dance friends. So you know how in junior high, when you dance with the boy, you don't look at him, and there's like you hold your arms out as far as you can and you're
Yeah.
not actually making eye contact. Most friends, and I don't know if this is I'm not sure if this is even more true. It feels like even more true once you stick your neck out and do something courageous. Most friends are just meant to be junior high friends. It's not a dig on them. It's not a dig on you. It's just that most people that we know, even if they love us or like us, I don't know that they're necessarily trustworthy with our souls being bared and every thought or every kind of adventure up and down. That doesn't mean we can't be friends. It just means that there's a difference between junior high friends and people who you let into every bit of your heart. And so knowing that before you write a book or you take on something kind of big is super helpful, because then I can't expect this junior high friend to be what I need, right? I guess I can't expect them to have the skill to know, or the wherewithal or the tools to be able to say, you know what? I bet what you need right now is for me to sit with you. Or I bet what you need is for me to encourage you. I'm going to say out loud what I see in you. When Emma called you, or when you talked to Emma and she said, Mom, I am proud of you. I'm proud of you as a grown woman, not just my mom, but someone who's doing this with so much courage. She gets the mic. She gets the mic. She's
Yeah.
not a junior high friend. She understands exactly what you needed in that moment. And it still moves you to think of it. Oh, that we would be that kind of people, that we would be that for somebody else, and then not expect everybody to be able to do that. I don't take offense as much. When my first book came out, I just assumed everyone would think it was a Pulitzer Prize winner. And they didn't. And I wish I would have known at the time. I wish I would have had the words for kind of who's able and who's willing. And then for my other friends, just to say thanks for even being here, right? I don't expect you to read this and love this and quote this and talk about it with me. It's very personal to me, but that doesn't mean it has to be for you. I'm just going to do my junior high dance. I love you for where you are, but I won't expect you to be my ride or die. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
I literally studied Ephesians today, where it's talking about how what we say, if we say bad things, and this is a little off the subject, but not really, um, it it grieves the Holy
Heart of
Spirit.
God.
And I'm just like, what? And it was talking about your mouth, just your cuss
Mhm.
mouth, but it's not even talking about that. It's talking about how you gossip and all the things that come out of your mouth,
Mhm.
and even hurtful words about your book, or hurtful words to people that have let you down, and then it rolls in that mean old forgiveness. Because
Yeah.
forgiveness, I also read recently where you if you think you've forgiven someone, you haven't, when you see them and you still, it causes your blood to boil, or you feel, I'm like, oh my gosh, because you can say that you forgive somebody
Right.
really simply, and then when you see them again, all this stuff rushes up inside of you again. But that's exactly what you're saying, is if we're living the way God wants us to, doing the purpose that we've been created to do, and He's given all of us a different gift. We're all not hands, we're all not feet, but we can't stand up without our feet and our toes. We need everybody. And so you got to be careful, little mouths, what you say. But also, when you're processing it, we have to process it as a Christian too. Just like this morning, instead of instantly feeling like, oh my gosh, this new book is garbage.
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, I literally heard your mouth. I mean, I literally heard your words say, is she your demographic? I mean, come on, Trish. Don't be stupid. She's not who you're writing to.
Right.
And the other thing, like you said, well, doing it's not comfortable. Jesus never said it was going to be easy or comfortable. Following him is hard. And if you're not making some sort of sacrifice, then you're not doing it, because it's time to even read his word and time to be in the moment for those people. And the other part of it is the uncomfortable part. I thought Bob was nuts about this podcast. I thought that's the silliest thing. I mean, I am an expert on nothing. I mean, nothing except being alive, for 56 years. And that's how it starts every, episode. You do not know how many people have reached out to me and said how much they enjoy this and that they get something from it every week. And it's like, you've got to be kidding. I'm so thankful that he would maybe, he didn't push me out of the boat, but he nudged me.
Prodded. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but I'm so glad that he did. And because, yeah, it's uncomfortable and I don't love seeing my face on here every day, but if somebody is getting something out of it, then it's worth not making any money. It's not about money. It's not about.
Yeah, I think it's a question of who gets the no. I think we give ourselves the no way too fast.
Yes.
Right. And also the yes isn't forever. Right.
Yes.
So we decide, well, I could never, I will never. I mean, that's silly. I find that I'm a lot nicer to myself if I talk to myself like I would speak to my children.
Yeah.
And you would never say to Emma, that's ridiculous. I would never try that. You never would do that. You would never do that. Oh, well.
I've seen her do some stuff.
Well, if she came to you with her dream, I don't know that you'd say
obviously not.
So,
I mean, we've got 45 horses out there, so I guess we're going all in on that.
Well, I love that you're saying that out loud, and I love it that you are such a cheerleader, Trish. For people who are wondering how in the world could this work, you don't just say it, you do it. So kudos to you. It's been really fun to talk with you about it.
Well, thank you for being my guest today, and I hope I get to see you again sometime.
I would love it. Love it. Maybe we'll see each other on Slaughterhouse Road. Now we know it's not dangerous.
We will. We will. All right. Thank you all for listening.